said that he was a soldier and that he had killed people.
She was saying plane, tall building, New York City. She saw that plane coming through the wall.
Why won't you tell me I love you, Mommy? He said, it's because you weren't my mommy. He said, you're my mommy now. That was our awakening.
She started talking to me about a fire, people frantic, trying to leave. But then she didn't want to remember what happened next.
Ken said that he had smelt fire. He got extremely emotional.
A look of terror on his face.
All I remember was the crash. The rest is fuzzy.
He just lost it.
This was more than just a story. She was remembering a past life.
There's no way that this doesn't match.
It's not that I don't believe it. I have a hard time processing it.
I couldn't understand where this was coming from.
My little boy was suffering and I felt helpless.
I don't believe anything unless it happens to me, but I know something happened to my son.
Plummerville is a sprawled kind of town with fewer than 800 people. If you were driving through here, you would blink and miss it. Plummerville is dead center of the Bible Belt. There is not a person here that you will not meet that is not extremely religious. My husband's name is Craig. We have 4 girls and 1 boy. He's our youngest, and his name is Ken.
I was really excited to be able to have a boy. I always wanted one.
Ken was born 7.5 weeks early. He screamed bloody murder the first 6 months of his life. There was never breaks, there was never quiet time. I've tried for so many years to describe those screams. Eardrum piercing, window breaking. If you had like a hawk and you were to cut its foot off, the scream that that would make, that would be the sound. Everybody, including myself and the kids, slept whenever he slept. Anytime he laid down, everybody else laid down too, because we knew that if Ken was sleeping, we had better sleep, because as soon as he gets up, nobody else is gonna sleep. He was definitely a different baby. We've tried everything, night lights, TVs, sounds, radios. We've tried everything, and he can't stay asleep. Ken was actually diagnosed with night terrors. It was an extreme version of nightmares. He'd wake up screaming, crying, his arms flailing, kicking his feet, and he started very young getting up and running the house. It was extremely hard on me. I felt like I was just failing him. A lot of times whenever I'd find Ken walking the house or doing whatever weird thing he was doing, there were many nights that I just sat with Ken and cried because none of it made sense. I would ask Ken, what's scaring you? And he would just tell me that it was too scary. They'd look away. To me, as a mom, I picked up from him that that was his way of saying he didn't know how to put into words what was happening to him every night.
I do have nightmares. There's eyes looking out of the windows, burning in the fire.
As a mom, it's sad. We want to fix everything. You know, we're supposed to kiss the boo-boos and scare away the bad guys, and that's like our job. We're supposed to make everything perfect for these perfect little kids, and we don't always have that option. There's some things that we can't fix. My first gut reaction was that something was more wrong than what we had originally thought. I would talk to my husband, Craig, about it, and he would just say, this is crazy. The only thing that seemed to help as Ken got older was to just sleep in bed with us. I don't foresee me getting a good, restful night's sleep anytime soon.
I built Ken a room so he could have his own room by himself. He still sleeps with us. Put him in his room at night, and whenever I get up at 4 o'clock to go to work, he's in bed with us.
My little boy was suffering, and I didn't know what to do. We had this nighttime ritual to where I would tuck all the kids in. They'd all say, "I love you, Mommy," and Ken would never say, "I love you, Mommy." And I finally was like, "Why won't you tell me I love you, Mommy? Why do you just say I love you?" And he said, "It's because you weren't my mommy." I didn't know what was going on.
My name is Karen, and I am Claire's mom. I work as the marketing communications coordinator at a privately owned company here in Pittsburgh. If you're into sports, you're in the right place. I think Pittsburgh's a good place to have a family. There's a lot of things for kids to do. I love the Science Center. It's wonderful. I'm so glad that that's here. When I was around 6 months pregnant, my sister called right around 9 o'clock and wanted me to turn the TV on. It was September 11th.
We turned on some TVs at the office, and they kept saying, "A plane went down in Pittsburgh, a plane went down in Pittsburgh." And I was like, oh my gosh, Pittsburgh, my sister lives in Pittsburgh.
I really was shocked at what was happening in the world. She was actually fearful for my life, thinking that a plane had hit here in Pittsburgh. United 93 crashed about an hour from here. I couldn't believe what was happening and sat there and watched and was like, oh my God, what am I bringing my baby into? And a lot of things changed after that, and it's not right. Three months later, after 9/11, I went into the hospital because I was 2 days late from my due date.
I just remember Karen had a lot of complications.
By that afternoon, I was actually in labor and she was getting ready to come out. We went from having a labor and delivery room with just the doctor and a nurse to a full-filled room with lots of people from the neonatal care, and the nurse standing next to me saying, "Just breathe for the baby, just breathe for the baby." They rushed me next door to the emergency room, and we did an emergency C-section. She wasn't breathing when she came out, and we both nearly died.
I just remember being scared for her and Claire at the same time.
I actually remember hearing them say that she was blue. I was frantic. When I saw her in NICU, she had tubes everywhere in her, and they had to intubate her right away. She had swallowed and breathed in a lot of blood. They had to check her for brain waves and everything. It was horrifying. I actually felt like it was my fault that she went through all that. After Claire's birth, I was on a lot of medication and in a lot of pain. I remember being wheeled up next to her. I still see that cute little hat they put on, that little striped hat they put on in NICU for them. I can remember the smell and everything. So I was able to kiss her. She had the best smile on her face, you know, and she's just laying there. It was wonderful. She had been tested not long after birth for milestones to see if you're grasping things. She was all ahead or beyond her age group for every test that they ever did to her, so she was completely fine. Claire was always advanced with everything. I mean, she picked up on everything that you would talk to her about. She walked early. She started being creative at the age of 9 months. That was when I first gave her something to draw with. I honestly don't know of a day that has gone by where I haven't seen her drawing something. The first time I noticed something was out of character with Claire was when she was around 2. Claire has always been my baby, and I called her that for a really long time. I also call her Claire, too. But as she started getting more vocal and having conversations with us, she decided that she only wanted to be called baby. She did not want to be called Claire. She said it wasn't her name. She was pretty adamant about it.
I just thought she was being a kid. That's just what kids do. They go through little phases.
And then Claire said something else to me that left me bewildered. I had a really difficult childbirth with Claire. We both almost died. I had many conversations with her about why didn't she want to be called Claire? Why did she want to be called baby? I didn't know what was going on with her. She always would say she wants to stay a baby. And when she turned 3, she was very excited. That was her favorite number. She did not want to turn 4. She didn't want to get any older.
I saw Claire cry because she didn't want to be called Claire and because she didn't want to grow up. I mean, there was times where she was sobbing.
She said she did not want to grow up again. How do you deal with a child who doesn't want to grow up? What do you say to them? How do you help them through that? It was very frustrating to me, and it was disheartening. For a few years, everything was normal, and then something else happened. When Claire was around 8, we decided to take a trip to Texas to visit my sister. Claire was very excited about the trip at first. And then after I bought the tickets, she decided that she didn't want to get on that plane, and she did not want to go. She started telling me that she was afraid to fly. She was afraid to get on the plane. Claire had never flown in a plane before. I tried to talk to her about what it feels like to be on a plane. It feels like just like riding a bus, but it's very cool. You can see the clouds. She didn't care. I always considered Claire my risk taker. She would go to the top of the highest slide and be fine with it. About 2 weeks before the trip, when I was tucking her in bed, I decided to try again to have a discussion with Claire about being comfortable with flying. I asked her, what do you think the worst thing that would happen if we went on an airplane ride? When she finally talked to me about her true reason for being afraid to fly, I was overwhelmed.
We were all so excited when Ken was born. He was the only boy in a house full of girls, but that wasn't the only thing different about him. I felt like I was just failing him. When Ken grew older, it was nighttime, he took on a completely different personality. He started getting up and running. And instead of, I love you, Mommy, Ken said, you weren't my mommy. He said, you're my mommy now. We're dealing with a whole nother issue. But that was only the beginning. Every chance I get, I try to encourage Ken to do things that make him happy. And outdoors is his thing. If he can be outside, he's happy.
He'll stay outside all the time if you let him. First minute when he gets up in the morning, he's outside the door.
Ken is an adventurer. He has this greater appreciation for the natural world. He feels like that's where he belongs. When Ken was 5, we planned on going on a family trip to the Natural Bridge. And we got up there and it was closed. We thought, well, you know, we can't just cut it short because it's closed. Let's drive and see what we find. And we found this particular spot, completely new to us, and Ken had never been up there before. When we got out and started to walk, I noticed that Ken's total demeanor changed, almost instantaneously. His facial expressions changed. He was very somber, which then turned into extreme sadness. He wasn't out in front of the family. He was quite a ways behind us, which is very unusual for Ken. And I actually had to go get him and hold his hand to walk this path. He got extremely emotional. It was time to leave. We had to go. He didn't want to be there. He wasn't happy outside, which another not usual for Ken.
Ken had a look of terror on his face. I didn't know what to think. what was going on. I mean, usually Ken loves being outside. He loves going wood walking. He's really happy when we do stuff like that.
Ken said that he had smelt fire. I kept telling him that there was a burn ban, which in Arkansas means no burning of any kind is allowed because the brush is so thick and the chances of wildfires is extreme. We got back to the truck, he just sort of lost it and was uncontrollably crying.
I didn't know what to think. Just seeing how upset Ken was, I've never seen him like that.
We were constantly, what's wrong? Why are you crying? Just tell us, why are you crying? He started to tell us there was an Indian man there named 4 C's. Ken's words to me were that he was ordered to burn any evidence of the Indians being there. I was horrified that he even knew what burning people was like. And then Ken said he had to kill them all. And they all burned. And he's very, very mad. Why was my 5-year-old son talking about killing people? My 6-year-old son, Ken, has had night terrors since he was a baby. The screaming was so loud that it affected the entire family. And then he said that I wasn't his only mother. My little boy was suffering and I felt helpless. We went on a walk with the entire family and my son began to talk about how he had killed people. He said that he was a soldier and that there was an Indian man there and that he was a chief. His name was 4 C's, and that he was sad but very mad at Ken. He said that there was Indians that lived there. They were forced in this tiny little area. He was told that he had to kill them all. And his words were that I had shot the Indian chief, 4 C's, in the arm, and they told me to keep firing, and I shot him in the head. He was told that he had to burn down all evidence of them. Why would my son know about people being shot in the head?
Kenny was acting like that he was there when it happened. He kept on repeating about the people being burnt and killed. And he couldn't get through the story without crying. I started realizing something was wrong.
Ken wasn't as emotional about anything else ever in his life that he was about this one instance.
His fear and his sadness, it was real.
At this point, I started to think that maybe this was all connected to what Ken was going through at night.
Then I took him to the side and talked to him and helped him work through it, and he got to feeling a little bit better about what happened.
Whenever we had gotten home, I put him to bed, and he passed out like he had been doing, crazy hard labor all day long. That's the only night I ever remember him sleeping through the night. I feel like he was relieved, in a sense. He'd kept it bottled up for so long and hadn't said anything for whatever his reasons were, that he finally just feels like he had just dumped all this off and was able to rest. I immediately went to research because I want to know what's going on with him. I jumped on the internet and I typed in 4 C's, and I typed in 4 C's Arkansas. I typed in 4 C's trail. I typed in anything and everything I can come across that would lead me to any answers. And I actually came across the Trail of Tears. Plummerville is really close to the Trail of Tears. In the early 1800s, the Native Americans were forced out of their lands and had to walk west They call it the Trail of Tears because they lost many, many loved ones. I learned part of the Native American tradition is that you have past lives. Reincarnation is part of the life and death cycle. When I told my husband that it could have been a past life, he really didn't know what to say.
I always believed that once you was dead, you was dead. I still don't really all the way buy into that past life stuff.
Over a couple of weeks, Ken just kept dropping these little hints. Facts started to pour in.
Four Seas was a good weekend.
He told me his name was Kit, and I said, "Your name is Ken." And he said, "No, it's Kit." The closest name I've ever heard in my life is like Kyle or something. Like, I've never heard Kit. I kept looking and I kept doing research, and then one day there it was. My son's memories were real, and I was shocked.
When Claire was around 8, we decided to take a trip to Texas to visit my sister. After I bought the tickets, she decided that she didn't want to get on that plane, and she did not want to go. It was a really emotional time for me. Her fear of flying was so intense, she was afraid to fly with me to my sister's house in Houston. She started talking to me about the plane crashed through the side of the building.
I remember her telling me that Claire felt pretty adamant that she was in a building when a plane crashed.
She continued telling me that she saw a portion of that plane coming through the wall.
Could have been something she had seen because every year they replay something from September 11th.
I remembered back to when I was pregnant with Claire and the whole 9/11 incident, and I thought to myself, ooh, I wonder if she's remembering being a part of the whole 9/11 tragedy. For about 2 weeks, she continued telling me that she worked in an office in New York City, and I started writing everything she told me down. She was talking with emotion and like it was happening, it was very real to her. Claire described her hair as being red and wavy. She even remembered that she would often put it up in a bun. The way she described the outfit that she was wearing, it was sort of like a 1950s type of style, and I really restricted what they watched on TV. And so where would she have seen 1950s clothes to even describe them? She started talking to me about a fire within the office, people frantic, but then she didn't remember what happened next. It's almost as if she didn't want to remember. I had her start talking to me about the building itself, and I fully expected her to describe 2 buildings. I asked her, well, which building were you in? She told me it was the Empire State Building. I had never heard of a plane crashing into a building in New York City except for 9/11. I took my notes and walked downstairs to see what I could find out on the computer. But I just wanted to have verification or proof that something like that actually occurred. I was shocked to find that there actually was an airplane that hit into the Empire State Building. How would an 8-year-old telling me this?
There was something that bothered my son Ken from the time that he was born. He couldn't sleep without having horrible nightmares, and something seemed to haunt him. I heard him say that he was ordered to burn any evidence of them all. Whenever we had gotten home, I put him to bed. That's the only night I ever remember him sleeping through the night. But then all of a sudden, his nightmares were back.
As Kenny's daddy, I wanted to help him wanted to make him feel safe, and I didn't know how to.
When you live in Arkansas, you often hear about the Trail of Tears. I started to think that that was the connection to Ken's memories.
Knowing that the Trail of Tears run through Arkansas, it went through my mind that we could have been on an Indian burial ground. And when Kenneth said he was a soldier, there were some Civil War battles around here in Arkansas too, so I thought maybe there could be some connection with that.
I typed in 4Cs and Native American, and I got a hit. I learned that 4Cs is a major symbol in the Navajo creation story. And my belief was that 4Cs could represent the Navajo people in Ken's memories. The Navajo had their own Trail of Tears, and they called that the Long Walk. The Long Walk actually took place in New Mexico, not in Arkansas. It occurred in 1864, a couple of decades after the Trail of Tears. The US government had forced the Navajo people off of their land, and then it jumped off the page at me. The story of a soldier named Kit Carson, the exact name my son had told me. I was literally like yelling, "Oh my gosh, oh my gosh, oh my gosh," he said that name. Kit Carson was a person that I had never heard of before. And I know my son has never heard of him before because it's not something they had learned about in school. Kit Carson was a mountain man and a wilderness expert in the 1800s. Kit Carson loved the outdoors. He was an adventurer, a scout, and a trapper. Kenneth loved being outdoors, and Kit Carson was a frontiersman. He was also a soldier who fought in the Mexican-American War and in the Civil War. The military forced Kit Carson to do things that were inexcusably brutal. Kit Carson was one of many in charge of driving the Navajo out of their land into inhospitable lands. Some of the Navajo people were shot and some were burned. Kit Carson was also extremely conflicted about what he had done and what he was forced to do versus what he felt was right, because he knew what he was doing was wrong and because he had married a Native American woman. I immediately saw the connection because with Ken smelling smoke and talking about them burning, this little boy had the memory of it. Everything that Ken was saying was matching up with the story of the Long Walk.
I looked up and saw human burning in fires. And there was like 10 people burning in the fire. Or 13, or 100. It was a pretty huge pile.
The pieces of the puzzle were all just coming together. There's no way that this doesn't match.
I didn't know what to think whenever Danette told me she found that what Kim was talking about was a true story. I'm a skeptic. I don't think I believe anything unless it happens to me. But at the same time, I know something happened to my son.
I asked Kenneth if the name Kit Carson meant anything to him, and he said, "Yeah, that's me." I felt a little bit of relief because we knew at least what the story was, so we knew where to work. Ken had mentioned that he was given orders, but it didn't change the fact that he felt guilty for it.
Ken felt hurt. He said he was a soldier, but at the same time, it was almost like he was experiencing it from the Indian.
You can just see it all over Ken's face that he was sorry for what he had done.
All people died, except for me. It was sad.
I really wanted him to understand that he was Ken now and that he needed to let go of whatever he was feeling in relations to this event. My fear is that Ken will continue to carry those thoughts and feelings with him. It's like crushing his little soul. Everything that Ken was saying was matching up with the story of the Long Walk. He said fire, and then there was the burn. And he said 4 C's, and that was what connected to the Navajo tradition. Ken looked and radiated remorse for things that he had done in his past life, and Kit Carson was also extremely remorseful. The pieces of the puzzle were all just coming together. Ken is still going through something. He's still having nightmares at night. I really want him to understand that he was Ken now and that he needed to let go. Did some research and found that there is some ceremonies that we can offer to do at the site where he had his emotional breakdown, asking for forgiveness and offering our feelings of sorrow for what they had gone through. This is a place where Ken initially shared his story about Kit Carson with us. We want to do a ceremony for Ken to ask for forgiveness for what he had done and to say goodbye to Kit Carson. I had a mentor who has taught me that burning sage helps clear negative energy and it releases it, and you offer a prayer. That's good. More than enough. Now we're gonna have Dad light it. Try to get it that other little piece right here. Okay, you ready?
Yes.
We're gonna say goodbye to Kit Carson.
Okay, I will.
We're sorry for all the things that Kit Carson has done,
I'm sorry for all the things that Kit Carson has done.
but we need to say goodbye to Kit Carson and 4 C's
But we need to say goodbye to Kit Carson and 4 C's.
so that I can go on and do wonderful things in my life.
So I can go on and do wonderful things in my life.
All right, I'm done. Give me a hug. I definitely feel optimistic that Ken will be able to set this part of his life aside and move forward and do some good in the world this time around.
I see a fish.
Oh, yep, there's fish. I think that Ken's gonna find it really refreshing to move past this.
I recognized that my daughter Claire had a fear of flying when we had the opportunity to fly to Houston. She told me that a plane had hit into the Empire State Building. I had never heard of a plane crashing into a building in New York City except for 9/11. I couldn't understand, how would she know about that? When I sat down to do research, I was shocked to find out that on July 28, 1945, there actually was a plane.
The disaster on 34th Street. An Army bomber lost in the overcast had crashed into the towering Empire State Building, parts of it blasting completely through the 79th floor and landing across the street. When a count was made, 3 crewmen were dead, as well as 10 persons working in the skyscraper. 25 persons were injured in a disaster that remains the most singular in New York City's history.
I was amazed to find that it really did happen. I realized this was more than just a story. She was remembering a past life. The year even matched the description of the clothes she had told me about.
It's not that I don't believe it. I have a hard time processing it.
I showed Claire what I found online the next day. It helped to validate what she remembered was real.
My name is Clarice. I live in Pittsburgh, Pennsylvania, and I'm 12 years old. I remember my name Rose and that I had 2 children. I was working inside of a cubicle in the Empire State Building when the plane's wing crashed into my office. All I remember was the crash. The rest is fuzzy.
We don't know exactly who Claire was in a past life, so it was very hard for her.
I was unsure and scared.
Through my research of those who have remembered a past life, it seems as though when a person visits the actual place where they had that past life, more memories can come through and more healing can happen.
My mother's going to take me to the Empire State Building to help me recover from these memories. I'm interested to know if I have any flashbacks from that time. Maybe understanding my past self would help me understand me in this life.
I am slightly hesitant that Claire may have some emotional reaction to her visit to the Empire State Building. I'm not sure what will come out of that. I asked Claire if she would be interested in going to the Empire State Building, and she said, yeah, she'd like to go. I am slightly hesitant that Claire may have some emotional reaction.
Claire has a fear of being there. I'm not 100% sold that there are past lives and that we come back, but I support Claire and this journey that she's going to go on. And
I have some unanswered questions like, what happened that day? Why did the crash happen?
hopefully it'll bring some closure.
Claire and I are here in New York City. We're on 34th Street, which is just around the corner from the Empire State Building. We're gonna walk into the Empire State Building and we're gonna see if we can try to see the 79th floor, peek in, or just kind of get near to there. See how far we can get. Hey, come on. Say hi, we're at the Empire State Building. It's pretty tall. I feel like Claire might remember some more information that she was not clear about, like her name. She wasn't sure if it was Rose, she mentioned Anne. She didn't really remember any parts of her death. So we're hoping something like that might come through.
I'm feeling pretty good. I'm excited to go in the Empire State Building. It's pretty cool. I hope to find a list of names or memorials to people who used to work there, maybe to find who I was.
I'm hoping we can find some more information on this particular plane crash in 1945. You remember that from somewhere? And to help her be at rest with that. Look how beautiful. I love all this. As we were walking around the building, as we were walking through the building, it looks like the 1920s, doesn't it? I couldn't help but wonder what that experience might have been like for her to go to work every day and to walk in there on that Saturday morning, only to see the plane crash through the side of the wall. How horrifying that must have been. Wherever you want to go, sweetie, I'll follow you. See if there's a timeline, honey, somewhere.
There's no evidence of the crash.
We didn't find anything that would memorialize the deaths of those people involved in the 1945 crash. What do you think? You ready to look outside?
Being in the Empire State Building made me feel that I may have died there in the crash. If it was too small of an event, then I guess they wouldn't put it in there. But I was kind of surprised they didn't have anything about it.
They don't have any history of the crash.
No, they don't.
None. Like, none.
Sucks, right?
Yeah.
Wonder why. It seems like it's not only forgotten, but almost sort of erased.
It still happened.
You can't erase the past.
There needs to be something. A lot of people don't know that it happened, but I do, and that's really special.
Even though we didn't find anything out today, it's highly possible that still more information will come to her because of having the experience that we did today. Hopefully we can do some more research and see if some names that she has remembered, whether it's Rose or Anne, come through with the research that we can find. The producers gave us a list of names to find out if anything resonates with you. You want to look through with me?
Sure.
Mary died during the crash. And we have Anna, And then here's another one, Patricia. Oh, this is a woman that fell down the elevator. And then here's Margaret.
The one who sounds most familiar is Anna Gerlach.
Yeah? Why do you feel that way?
Well, it says that she was Irish.
No, that makes sense then too, huh?
She was red hair. And her mother's name was Rose, too.
And you remembered Rose as a name. That's what
The
you
name
said.
Rose, the name Anne. It says she died instantly on impact. I found that I had actually died in the Empire State Building in the crash.
You feel like that might have happened to you?
Yeah. Because I have no memory of anything else.
And that's most likely why her memory of that lifetime just stops.
2 kids.
Everything that Claire told me really connected with Anna. The information that she remembered was true.
I honestly didn't know if I was going to find anyone in there that would relate to my memories, but I did, and it was perfect.
It's validation that you're not just like imagining this stuff. Not only did it give her healing, there's proof that it was real.
I'm really tired from the day, but it's nice to put the pieces of the puzzle together and find out who I was in the end.
This has been quite the experience for Claire. I mean, she was really afraid to get on that plane, and that simple act of remembering this past life has really healed her.
It was good that my mom brought me to New York City. I think that remembering all this stuff made me come over my fear of flying. I realized I'm not in that lifetime and I can't be hurt anymore.
I don't have to be afraid anymore.